Our next session is on impact, really, even though it says something a little different on the brochure. So we are going to have two CEOs of two different companies talking about how machines operate to create impact. And so,
good to see you again.
Why don't we start by just doing an intro. So Bernard, why don't you give us an intro? What do you do?
All right. I mean, first of all, I just wanted to mention that we have our roots at Stanford. So years ago, we were licensing technology out of Stanford, and we ended up around tactile sensors for robots. So our goal was to build...
For robots?
Yeah, for robots, yeah. And our goal was to build the haptics technology for robots. And we ended up building way more than we've anticipated. So let me sort of give you a flavor of it.
Okay.
So we are re-industrializing America. So we are building full-stack robots.
Whoa, wait a second. Let's start with the big idea here. You just threw something out that's pretty amazing.
Yes.
So you are re-industrializing America. What
yes.
the hell does that mean?
So our goal is to transform all line industries into smart factories of the future powered by robotics and AI.
So
we are helping manufacturers. We are helping to reshore American manufacturing to solve labor shortage problems. And we are also pioneering disruptive business models to enable manufacturers of all sizes to access world-leading automation.
Okay. And I'm sure you have some slides you want to show us as well.
Yeah, just a video of it. So we are building full-stack robots.
Hold off on the slides just yet. So I want Sam to have a little opportunity here.
All right.
So Sam, tell me a little bit about what you're up to. What are you doing?
Sure. We build essentially farms in boxes. So it's a farm a mechanical farm, an automated farm.
So it's like this?
It's a huge box. It's like the size of this room. So essentially it's, there you go, a re-industrialization of ag. How about that? No, essentially what it is you take a very large box, the size of a very large two-story house, and inside of it you have robots and machines that cultivate plants to their highest quality.
Sounds scary, actually.
Tastes great.
Yeah. Okay, so you're basically creating enormous disruption with your business model.
I hope so.
So you both are enormous disruptors in the way you're thinking about things. One on industry in terms of manufacturing, and the other on farm tech, or what we call farm tech.
Yep.
Okay, so I got it straight now. Bernard, you want to show some slides?
Oh yeah, just two videos. So I'm going to show you how we're helping enterprises automate their factory assembly lines, warehouses, and logistics operations. So as I mentioned, we build software and hardware. Besides the yellow robot that you see, we pretty much build everything. So the yellow,
What are we actually looking at?
so robotic end-to-end AI-powered robotic work cells that are in the consumer package products industry. So we build robotic work cells for for end-of-line packaging, for manufacturing, and also food services. So we roll out these boxes to customers.
I remember you told me about the comedy Lucille Ball when she was a worker in this film, and it was a candy store, and they started speeding up the assembly line. All of a sudden, candy was flying everywhere. It was a comedy routine. So essentially what your robots are doing is catching the candy that's coming off, anticipating it, and putting it back on the line.
Yes, exactly, and you'll see that. So there's a 1-minute video, and then that's it. But it's essentially what you're describing.
Okay.
So here we are showing our flagship product line, which is called the Vulcan. So it's exclusively for an end-of-line packaging. It's what we call a pack-out-to-box machine. It's the ultimate pack-out-to-box AI-powered machine. So we are, and here you see the robots picking multiple objects in one shot. So we end up designing also multiple end effectors or robotic grippers for the robots to be able to handle all sorts of items. And we design those in less than half a day. So it's designed and built in less than half a day. So we have a rapid prototyping unit that also does that.
So essentially what you're doing is you are teaching it what to do in a customized environment,
Yes, exactly.
manufacturing environment. And you're doing it in, as you say, less than a day.
Yeah,
Okay, so massive improvement in productivity, presumably.
exactly.
Okay, and so tell me, what's the tech behind it? What's behind the scenes? I can see all the robots working, but what's actually driving it?
Yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure that, I mean, it's something that you highlighted this morning. We are riding on a lot of infrastructure. I mean, what makes all this possible today is our AI algorithms. I mean, the AI algorithms that we didn't have 2 years ago. It's AI algorithms, it's more compute. Now we have access to GPUs, we have access to the Omniverse, we have access to more data. We have access to new sensors, new hardware. I mean, these are all the elements. We have access to cloud computing and edge computing. These combined allow us to build these machines.
So they're all converged into a system, an intelligence system that makes decisions
Correct.
once it's taught what to learn
Yes, exactly.
on its own.
Yes. So we are teaching these robots to do a certain task, and then we're also we're teaching them to do the task, and we're also teaching them how to deal with edge cases, which is the fundamental challenge in robotics.
Okay, okay. So you both have similar approaches, but very different problems you're solving. And you're using the same converged technology in creating a platform to solve those different problems. So Sam, tell me a little bit about how 1.1, which is the name of your company, I understand the big box idea, it's a factory and you're producing something, but what actually is this thing? What's
Yeah.
the benefit?
The benefit is 99% less land, 99% less water.
Whoa, wait a second, don't rush through that one.
Sorry.
So the traditional family farm is out there, and what are they doing? They're delivering product 2,000 miles away from
Yes.
where the consumer is.
Yep.
And they've got, 30% spoilage, and they're consuming a lot of water,
Yep.
and they're also using fertilizer.
And pesticides and all these kinds of things.
Nutrition, same?
The nutrition of the traditionally farmed product is lower so far than the product
Okay.
that we've been able to grow.
Okay, and you're basically rattling off all of these advantages. You're not using as much water, almost nothing in comparison,
Yep.
and you're not using fertilizer in the traditional sense of it.
Pesticides. We still
Pesticides.
have some fertilizer. Yeah. Fertilizer.
Okay, all right. So, do you grow as much food as an acre farm does?
Yeah. So let's say this is a 10,000 square foot room. An acre is 40,000 square feet, so 4 times larger than this. So in this room, we could grow 10 to 100 acres worth of product, depending on the product
Okay,
we grow.
so what are you telling the family farmer, out there?
Well, the family farmer, the family farmer or the industrial farmer doesn't really care about us yet. We're not a major threat to them. The outdoor farm has
So
issues.
you don't actually want to tell them anything right now?
Well,
You're kind of sneaking under the radar.
No, our goal is not to be the producer per se. It's the same, like Intel is not their goal is not to create the software.
Yeah.
So we want to sort of the same way as Intel, we want to be the Intel inside of agriculture. So if you're the farmer or the grower or the distributor or the retailer or whomever, if you want to own production, then you can buy a farm that fits inside of a box and you connect it up to power and water and then away you go.
So we've got huge problems with water in California. And, by, I think the last estimate, the entire coastline dropped 3 inches from the water that's being, or maybe it rose 3 inches. I'm not sure which way it went,
Well,
but
the
it
Central
changed.
Valley, over the last 100 years, the Central Valley's land has physically dropped in some cases by between 15
Yeah,
and
that
30
should be
feet.
disturbing, but,
Yeah.
it's like the frog in the boiling water, right?
Yeah.
It takes time for us to realize that.
Yeah.
So we're having a big water problem.
Yeah.
And you're telling me you've got a solution to it using this converged robotics system.
Yes.
Okay, and we're not going to dump fertilizer in the Gulf of Mexico so much
Not so
anymore.
much, no.
Okay, so I would think that if I were a traditional farmer, I'd want to hop on the bandwagon
Haha.
pretty quickly.
You would, yeah.
Assuming the economics are similar.
The economics are the hard part. So we're essentially battling against a form of production that's 10,000 years old and has been optimizing for a similar period of time with tens, hundreds of billions of dollars of R&D during that same period of time. So even though we're much more efficient with essentially every resource other than electricity, we do have to get to a point where it is completely automated in order to be able to compete. So in the same way as Bernard is doing it, you've got to drop that labor cost to be able to compete with the outdoor farm. And so that's the big endeavor, because once we beat it once, we can do it every time.
Do your robots learn?
The robots do learn. So the robots in our farm move the plants. The robots move the lights. The robots visually inspect the plants. The main learning that we're instituting from a robot.
The plants are on like these bookshelves almost.
Yeah, they grow out of walls. So if you've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, just imagine big 20-foot tall monoliths, plants growing out of either side. There's a mist inside of that monolith that is spraying the roots and providing the nutrients. So we would fit, 400 of those pillars here inside of this room. But the main learning for us is on the plant side, and that's in its infancy, and I'm even complimenting it that way. Plants, biology in general is just unbelievably complicated, and our goal is to take genetics that are somewhat repeatable, institute them in an environment that is unbelievably repeatable, and hopefully control the outcome. That's really the goal, because the variability of Mother Nature is vast, as you can imagine. So in any way, trying to predict yield on an outdoor farm is complex, even when you have the data.
Okay, all right. So in both your cases, you're using incredibly interesting new converged systems. You're accumulating vast amounts of data, which will provide insight that you can't get through a normal manufacturing process, or for that matter, a family farm is not going to have the kind of data that you have.
Yes.
And the economics are extremely compelling, Bernard, with what you're trying to do. But there's also the issue of labor, people, and jobs.
Exactly.
And then on your end of it, you have an economic model that basically is extremely compelling on social impact and environment.
I mean, for us specifically, our technology is already better with some plants. For example, I talk about it this way. The traditional farm will always do the corn, wheat, soybean, these kinds of commodity products, and then the greenhouse will be doing larger products, warmer products, the cucumbers, the peppers, the tomatoes in most cases, and then vertical farms will take the rest.
You also mentioned that you do pharma.
Yeah.
So you said, I think at one point that drug companies pay an inordinate amount of money per pound for extract from leafy plants, for example. Extracts.
All kinds of products, yeah.
Yeah. And that they don't have the same characteristics as you could actually develop new types of medicines based on that don't have the same problems of contamination or passing something bad on through animal processes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The value proposition for biopharma is not money. The pharmaceutical industry is pretty good when it comes to margins. But the value proposition is, number one, safety. Number two, the breadth of molecules you can test at the same time, and the speed at which you can get those molecules to market. That's really number 1, 2, and 3. And the way it actually works is, inside the box you grow plants, you trick the plant's DNA to produce a molecule of interest like a COVID-19 vaccine as opposed to vitamin K.
Wow, okay. And then Bernard, what?
Yeah, so I'd like to jump in and talk a little bit about why we exist today. So we primarily exist because of labor shortage, and people.
You exist because of labor shortage, not because you thought this was clever technology that would change the world.
That too.
You said to yourself, "Oh, there's a labor shortage. I have a solution."
Yeah. And most people don't realize how acute the labor shortage is in the United States. So if you open the Financial Times yesterday, there's actually an article that's entitled "Robots Need to Move Faster to Save the World." And
so we're going back to that chart again that we had earlier that said technology is on an exponential curve, and our ability to keep up with it as humans is very low, almost non-existent.
Correct.
So the only way to do it is through machine intelligence.
Yes, exactly. I mean,
so you're using computers to outsmart, the technology.
Yes, because of labor shortage. So let me just throw some statistics at you. So today there are 11.2 million jobs that are unfilled in the United States. 5.6 million jobs. There are 5.6 million job seekers, which means that there are 5.6 million jobs that will remain unfilled, and we don't really know how to actually fill them. Well, we have two choices. Either go through a comprehensive immigration reform, and we are nowhere near that. Accelerate birth rate, where if you look at the
It's
birth
actually
rate,
declining.
yeah, exactly, it's declining. It's an all-time low in the United States. Or seek automation. So that's a much more viable alternative.
Okay. So beyond the labor issues, what else do you bring to the table with when you start automating using robotics in manufacturing? What do you learn from the data?
Business intelligence. I mean, that's also what we provide to companies.
So can you give me an example?
Yeah, it's real-time adaptation to shifting customer demands. So it's how to optimize their process also, and how to get fewer defective products in the line.
Okay.
So we can actually tell them that how to do advanced planning of raw materials and goods.
Okay. Now, I would imagine that Sam, on your side, the insights from data are vast.
Yeah, beyond what we can currently even foresee, to be honest. Like at the start when you're trying to, you institute an environment to a known plant's genetics, and then that varies across the 750,000 that we grow. And then you determine what environmental changes, even if they're tiny, what environmental changes actually affect the plant's physiology, whether it's the chemical composition of the plant, whether it's the appearance of the plant, any of those kinds of things. So we're at the point where we're just starting to figure out what all the useful data is before we can start to learn from that data in really meaningful ways.
Are you going to cut the cost of manufacturing? If I use your robotics, can I get to market faster, cheaper?
Yeah, you
better?
can get to market faster, cheaper. So what we bring is more than, we don't do a one-to-one labor replacement. Because then,
Yeah.
So it's interesting what you mentioned, because before COVID, it was all about, the comparison was all about, it was with respect to a human operator. If someone paid, let's say, $12 an hour for a human operator, they would want a robot, they would want to pay $10 an hour, $8 an hour for robots. I mean, they would want 40 to 60% savings. After COVID, they realized, well, they don't really have a workforce. And also what we bring to the table is process optimization. So it's no longer a one-to-one replacement. So they pay way more. They pay like 2.5 to 3x more now because of the process improvement.
Okay. So we have a lot of family office members in the audience. Why should they be interested in your technologies?
Like I mentioned, because it's the future.
It's the future. Okay.
So we are actually at an inflection point. I mean, with the macroeconomic forces, we are actually at an inflection point in time in which the necessity to transform legacy industries is the biggest opportunity in modern history.
Okay, so what you're really saying to them is this technology and the way that it has been converged and put into platforms will have a huge impact on productivity.
Yeah,
and
society
will also impact the job market of where we're headed, not where we've been.
Correct.
And I think, Sam, you're saying something similar in that you're saying, look, we really can't waste the kind of water and resources to grow plants in the traditional way. If we really want to feed the, what is it, 1.1, after your company name, malnourished people in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That we have to look at where we're headed, not where we've come from.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
in a sense, you guys are leaders in transformation, not just of robotics and industries, but of a mentality of how people should think.
Yeah.
Bernard?
And also there are a lot of forces at play. It's almost like this perfect storm. I mean, we are at a point in time where we have geopolitical tensions with other countries. We have pandemic-induced supply chain issues. We have a labor shortage issue that COVID turned into a full-blown crisis. So that's what, we're actually at the right moment in time where we should be investing in robotics.
Okay.
And also from a tech standpoint, it's like it's ripe for disruption. We have all these platforms, again, that I mentioned that have been created. So we have like cloud computing, everything that I mentioned, AI, edge computing.
Enabling technologies.
Yeah, exactly, all these enabling more compute power. So it's this perfect storm.
So the timing on this is excellent.
Yep.
From both your points of view. Okay, fantastic. Shall we open it up to the audience and see if they have any questions?
Please.
Okay, audience, you have any questions? All right, who's going to order some food from a robotic-enabled farm? Raise your hands. There's a couple. All right, well, a lot of people said no. So what's the issue around this? Does anyone have a feeling that robotics, for example, may not be the optimal way to grow food?
I'd love that.
Anyone? Yeah, Stephen.
Steven.
You know, all this is connected by networks, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
So all those networks are basically at risk of being actually hacked, right?
correct. And we need people like you, Steven, if that's where you're heading.
Okay, so we have a mutual admiration.
So yes, cybersecurity is front and center in robotics.
Okay. It probably won't surprise you that I have been sampling Sam's food. He has a brand called Willow, and every month we get a little package, and my wife, who's a gourmet cook, takes the vegetables and the food, and we've been sampling it, and the quality is exceptional. Expensive, Sam, to get the price down, because, you know, we need to drop that subscription rate.
I'm trying.
But, you know, so it's very interesting, because at some point, I think that we start learning insights from what we do, and where you start with manufacturing or with farming, it's likely you're not going to end up there in the end. Because this technology is very powerful, and there's a human culture element to it. So I'm not sure, you know, how the adoption piece of it might actually become the biggest business barrier that you're facing right now.
It needs to come down to necessity, which has always been the thing for us, is that no one really cares about leafy greens, to be completely honest with you. Like, it tastes great, it's better for you, but the wider market, even if it is a $27 billion industry, the value proposition of a much higher quality product no one really cares about.
Okay.
But biopharmaceuticals, they certainly do.
Okay. Any questions?
And you also touch on a great subject, it's adoption. I mean, for us, we've literally transformed the business model. I mean, in the old days, it was all CapEx deal. That means you wanted robots, you paid an upfront capital cost for it. Right now, what we do is we sell robots as a service. So we don't charge any upfront capital cost. So it's basically $0 down. And so customers end up paying an operating fee per month. And we handle the installation, programming, reprogramming, maintenance for customers. We provide what we call the 3S. It's basically it's speed. So that means we actually roll out as fast as possible. It's service. We provide a frictionless service, and it's support. And then we provide 24/7 support for customers. So because of this business model, we've been able to roll this out to businesses that can't really afford paying millions of dollars upfront.
Excellent. So I now know why we don't have any questions. There's a break coming. Everybody wants to go out and get some coffee. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.